Nearly all graduate programs require a detailed CV when applying to their program, which means that if you are a prospective student, you can expect to write this document, which will include your background experience, professional experience, research, volunteering work, honors, achievements, and furthermore. Now, in many cases, this carries equal weight in the eyes of the admissions officer in quickly trying to see if a student is impressive or not. So in this video, we're going to see what a grad school resume looks like, and if you stick around till the end, there may not or definitely will be a resume template that I'll share with you guys. When working on the college applications, I know that most students focus on their personal statement or their academic statement of purpose, which are two very lengthy essays that they have to write. But oftentimes they don't focus too much or even give too much attention to the resume, which I think is a huge mistake. The resume, even though it is just a couple pages, is a very easy way for an admission officer to quickly glance and spend a couple seconds to see if a student would be a good fit for a particular college or university and how that student's goals and mindset fits into the values that the college has to offer. Here's what the Northeastern former Associate Director of Enrollment had to say. We're interested in a student's background and how it's relevant to the program he or she wants to enroll in. If they're enrolling in a communications program, for example, we are interested to see whether they're coming from a social media background or even a marketing background and how that experience applies to what they are looking for in grad school. Similarly, University of Southern California also said that just like a job resume where we say tailor your resume according to the job, it would be tailor your resume according to the grad program and what their requirements for admissions are. So before we move further, I want to clarify two basic terminologies that are often used, which is CV versus the resume. The resume is typically a lot shorter, sometimes like 1 to 2 pages long, versus the CV that is typically more than 2 pages. In some cases, I've even seen CVs be 5 to 10 pages. For example, students that are applying to a PhD program. And the reason behind this is that CVs typically contain more research-based experiences. So things like publications and poster presentations, conferences, all of these things would be detailedly explained, whereas a resume is a lot more professional in nature. Another place where a resume may be used would be like for these Master of Engineering programs, which again look at the professional outlook of the student. The terminology, basics and the definitions are oftentimes used interchangeably. So, don't feel very stuck on the fact that they've only asked for a CV or only a resume. Typically, the way that grad school applications work is that they do CV/resume, but depending on the program that you're applying to, just, in your mind, make sure that you are submitting the right information for the particular, requirements. Now, if you're planning to come to the US, the one thing that you'll definitely need is a US SIM card. And I want to thank Mint Mobile, the partner for today's video. They have got you covered. Now, when you look for a US SIM card, you are bombarded with these phone plans that are $50, $60, even $70 per month. And honestly, as an international student who's on a budget, you should not be spending this much on just a phone plan. There's a much better option, Mint Mobile at just $15 per month, which offers unlimited talk, text, and data of 5G. If you need a physical SIM, they will mail it to you for free, or you can simply just use their eSIM, which makes things extremely convenient. The link to sign up is going to be in the description below. You can get your phone plan for as low as $15 per month. So let's break down the resume format and how you should be crafting your detailed resume. The first thing I want to point out is there are so many designs and templates, and it can be very tempting to use something different out there. My personal recommendation and opinion would be stick to what works, the basic black and white, something that has a very clean formatting and a structure that you're following from the beginning to the end of your resume. This includes very simple attention to detail, like maintaining the same font name, maybe having headings in like bold and everything else in like normal text, having the right dates or even names of places in the right chronological order. If you're using state, comma, country, you're following that throughout the resume, and in all it looks very clean. The spacing is perfect. You're uploading it in a PDF format, not a Word format that messes up the formatting in the very end. The second point we're going to talk about is stating a clear objective. Now, this is a debatable topic because I personally feel like if you're just crafting a resume for like a job application or just a simple resume, you should not have an objective. It's just a waste of space. But if you're doing it for a college application, it is probably in your best interest to have a few lines, maybe 3 to 4 lines, talking about why you're a good fit for that particular program. So this objective section that's going to be on the top of your resume can actually change depending on the program that you're applying to. Remember, you don't need to address this to the particular university that you're applying to, but it needs to be very clear that this is why you are a good fit for this particular program. An example of a good resume objective would look something like this. An innovative educator with 8 years of classroom experience seeking to join the educational leadership program in order to develop the skills needed to increase their impact by pursuing a position in school administration. Next, details about your previous education. Since you are applying for a graduate level program, you need to include your undergraduate degree, and then maybe if you're applying for a PhD program, include your master's degree if you have one. With the educational requirements, the name of the college, the years that you actually attended, the place where this college is located, your major that you actually studied in, and in some cases you can even mention your cumulative GPA. If you were on like the dean's list or received some sort of academic merit scholarship, it's probably a good idea to include that in like a small bracket there itself. The next section is work experience. Now, graduate students come from all sorts of backgrounds. You may have a researcher that has a lot of research-based experience. You may have another person who's worked in the professional industry who may have direct industrial or company-wide experience. You may even have like a teacher that has classroom experience. So depending on the type of experience you have, your work experience section can look slightly different. The goal is to include everything in chronological order, and if you have a mixture of full-time and part-time, you need to be very explicit and list that in your resume because you do not want to have any sort of misunderstanding or give false information if you were in a part-time role to assume that it was full-time or of any other nature. In addition to that, when you're talking about like specific bullet points under a particular experience, you want to have quantifiable data. So use metrics, use numbers. This is professional experience. So you have to maybe talk about like a grant that you got or how you were able to help your company save money. Maybe some highlights of examples of projects that you worked on, people that you've supervised. And this can also include things like any awards that you've received while you were in that position at a particular company. The next section is skill set. And this particular skill set I feel like can slightly change depending on the program that you're applying to as well. But typically the skill set can be divided into technical skills, and within the technical skills you can have subdivisions. For example, if someone is applying for like a PhD in computer science, they can have programming skills and they can have maybe hardware skills that shows a different side of their profile or personality and trait, and they can also have some management skills where they talk about some leadership based roles. So these skill sets can include maybe examples of software and complex tools that you know how to function that may look good. Something like if you know how to work on Python, JavaScript, GitHub, or sysml, that's another type. You can have leadership opportunities like product road mapping, PMP certification, the use of Jira or Agile Scrum methodology. Now the skill set section, I will leave it up to your discretion as to where you want to include it. I've seen some people include this right after their objective. Some people like to include it after education. Others just like to put it on the very bottom after their work experience. So see what works best for you, and it's basically like, what do you want the admissions officer's eyes to focus more on? I feel like if someone has a strong work experience, like I would want the work experience to be on the top so that impresses the admission officer more. So see what works for you and play around with these things. The key important detail with crafting your resume is that you want it to be simple and well formatted. Remember that. And this even includes simple things like making sure that when you're downloading a PDF, it's renamed properly. Something like resume underscore S Verma would be something that I use. You can have a very clean definition. It shouldn't just be resume 2, 3, 4 or resume draft 27. All of these things seems very unprofessional and we want to stay away from that. Lastly, 2 things we do not want to include on the resume is 1, references available on request. I've seen a lot of like international students write this. This is like, it may be okay if you're applying for a job. Even then, nobody needs to write this on their resume. If you're applying for a job or whatnot, they will check for references when the time comes. It doesn't need to be stated on the resume. Second thing, do not write something like, I certify that everything in my resume is truthful, and then you're signing. It's understood that whatever you're submitting, you are being ethical about that. So these kind of things need to be like away, like just remove them entirely. It needs to be a clean formatted resume. We don't want a resume from like the 1900s that you're trying to submit here. All right. So the link to how you can download the resume templates is going to be in the description below. You'll need to sign up for free for the Ivy League 101 sneak peek and make a copy of the file. See what resume fits well for you. Play around with the sections and remember to keep it clean. Download it in a PDF and play around with it to see what makes the most sense. If you're watching till this point, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.